Good morning. Welcome to Vision in Action Live. We're happy to see you again. We have a presentation today on fulfillment plan prerequisites and a discussion today with our guest, Emad Aldajani. He's an entrepreneur and personal development coach with headquarters in New Zealand. Welcome, Mr. Aldajani. I'm Jim Boswell, and I'm your host and author of Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life. Today's presentation will be on fulfillment plan prerequisites, which will lay out the background for starting the lifelong fulfillment planning process. By answering such questions about who you are, what you want, where you have blind spots, and what your risk profile is. And at the end of that, what your Pareto priorities should be. This slide helps you understand how the prerequisites and then building and operating the plan come together. Our next podcast will actually look to building and working the plan. Today we focus on prerequisites. So we're going to talk about determining who and what you are using personality profile worksheets. So this is a look at it. This is an excerpt from the book Lifelong Fulfillment. And you're welcome to use this type of a worksheet for yourself. So you can see that it divides it up. We're going to look at Myers-Briggs as one of the personality tests that you want to do. Myers-Briggs dates from back in the 1940s. It's Jungian based from a psychology standpoint. And it'll come up with certain data points that you'll use to understand how you think, how you feel, how you react to the world at large. Then we do values inventory assessment of strengths, which is out of the positive psychology school with Martin Seligman's beginning around 2000. And then we're going to look at the good life dimensions. There are 3 of these, and we're going to ask you to make a choice about those. And we'll actually do that particular one here online. And then there's a test called Dominance, Influence, Steadiness, and Compliance, abbreviated DISC. It's another good data point to work opposite Myers-Briggs in terms of your personality, your style, and so forth. And then we're going to ask you to look at risk tolerance. You need to understand whether you are okay with balancing risk and reward in your life. If you're very conservative and you don't like much risk, or if you're at the far extreme and risk doesn't scare you at all. You need to know these things going in, so we're going to take a look at them. So Myers-Briggs, this will just show you specifically where to go get the test. There's multiple places. On Myers-Briggs, you're going to come up with a personality type, and it'll be described for you, so you'll want to capture that. And I want to digress for just a minute. In all of these tests, you want to take the test, you want to capture the results either electronically or in print. You're going to want to hold them for reference, and you're going to want to log them into that personality profile we initially showed you. And the reason for this is you'll come back to this again and again at every stage of life to redefine how you think, who you are, and what you want. So going back to Myers-Briggs briefly here, you take the test, and it tells you what type of personality type you are, and it will give you a full description of that. You can also take this second test that'll marry up your Myers-Briggs personality type with what kinds of work fit your personality type. And then also it will go as far as to match up your personality type with preferred relationships. So if you're wondering who would I get along with, this is a good way to get at least some idea. The values inventory of strength is a different kind of test. It looks at qualitative priorities. There's 24 total. In the Pareto world, we would only focus on the top 20%. So that's probably in a 4 to 6. And everything we do here to stay focused is Paretoized so that we don't spend a lot of time trying to be perfect. Let's look at the next 3 tests. 3 dimensions of the good life. What you're going to decide is, do I really just simply want to be happy? Do I want to have a meaningful or fulfilling life, which is different? Or do I really want to strive for wisdom and have a very rich and varied life? These are all very different in the way they get done. And the next slide in a minute will be address them. Dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance personality type. Go to this website, take the test, and you'll understand how that fits. And it's a good counterpoint to Myers-Briggs. Risk tolerance is something that you'll take this test online also, which will assess, are you risk averse? Are you okay with balanced risk, etc. So let's take a look at the 3 dimensions of the good life so we understand what we're talking about. This is well researched. I'm not going to worry about acquainting you with the authorities on that. It's in the book and on the website if you want it. The happy life is really in the middle of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the thing it produces is personal satisfaction. In other words, it's an emotional reaction to the conditions of your life relative to what makes you happy. So its features are comfort, joy, and serenity. Facilitators for that, well, you need enough money, you need enough time, you're going to need good positive relationships, and you need a positive mindset to achieve that. Moving up the Maslow's hierarchy of scale up to the pinnacle, you'll find what's called the meaningful life. Well, the meaningful life in our, lifelong fulfillment jargon is fulfillment itself. And so it's about meaning in life, maybe societal contribution. It is hallmarked by significance, purpose, and coherence in your thought processes. It is much more cerebral, say, than the happy lifestyle, which is more emotional based. And it has a lot to do with consistency, relationships, etc. as well. The rich lifestyle has a lot more to do with attaining wisdom. And that wisdom is not the wisdom of your locale and your lifestyle, but the wisdom of understanding the world at large and all the opportunities that are out there and letting them inform your visions and your goals. So it requires a lot of variety. It requires a compelling interest to do that. And also for you to be open to changing your perspectives. But it's a very rich lifestyle psychologically. Let's go on to the next section. So one of the things you need to understand at your gut level that defines you is what you like and what you want. And additionally, at the other end of the spectrum, you need to define what you really don't like and what are absolutely demotivators that you don't want to engage with. Well, what we ask you to do is take a table like this, 1 to 10, and on the left side, you put all your likes and wants. You don't have to initially, you brainstorm these and do the best you can, but do 10. Do the same thing on dislikes and demotivators. Now, once you've done that, pick the 2 highest priority items in the likes and wants, and those go into slots 1 and 2 on this page. Pick the top 2 demotivators and dislikes and put those in the top 2 on the right-hand side of the page. So now you know something, but you're not going to try and do all 10. You're going to focus using the Pareto rule on the top 2. Okay, let's look at a similar exercise in another area. This is called strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is very popular in the business community for identifying ways to improve their business. SWOT actually includes almost everything a human can experience or has in their makeup. Their health, their IQ, financial resources, work experience, self-awareness, their maturity, their emotional control, their optimism, their persistence, anything you can name. So don't hold back. This worksheet is actually divided up, we'll see it in a minute, into 4 quadrants. And in each quadrant, you want to identify 5 detailed items, 5 strengths, 5 weaknesses, 5 opportunities, and 5 threats. Then what you want to do is exercise Pareto so that you identify the number 1 issue in each quadrant, the number 1 strength you have, the number 1 weakness, the number 1 opportunity, and the number 1 threat. And so that you want to retain that because that's going to inform your detailed planning and your operations, which will come in the next broadcast. And this is what the worksheet looks like. It's real simple. You can do this on a piece of paper, but please do it, and it'll be revelatory, and you'll appreciate having that in your planning. And then there's the issue of what you don't know. We're all born into this world not knowing everything, and we have to learn. And that's the advantage of being a human, is we are capable of learning. But the problem is, at any point, there are things you don't know. And sometimes you don't know that you don't know. So in point of fact, the Johari window helps us do that. Again, it's a 4-quadrant exercise. One is things that are known to you and to others. So basically everybody knows that, right? And taken in at a point in time, you would all agree to that. But then there's things known to you, but not known to others. In other words, maybe your internal climate, you keep that hidden from the public, and so they don't know. And then there's things known to others, but not known to you. These are called blind spots. This is where, for instance, in this discussion right now, I don't know how I'm being received. I would actually have to ask you how you felt this conversation went. And I need to internalize that. That's an important data point for the success of a podcast. And then there's things unknown to others and unknown to you. And so we all have that issue. And so what this points out is the absolute need for continuous learning throughout your lifelong experience. So you put 5 items in each of these categories: area, facade, blind spot, and unknown. Then again, using Pareto, you focus those efforts on one item in each that is stands out as the biggest priority. Let's look at that table. Here's your table for you. Very simple and pretty simple to do. Take your time and go ahead and do that, and then hang on to it. Okay, moving along. So this is our podcast for this week. Next week, we will cover how you use the information you develop from this week to next week. So this one really helps you understand your prerequisites for lifestyle planning. If you don't know where you are and who you are and what you don't have point A so that you can proceed on to point B. You need to know your preferences for these lifestyle plans. So in 1 week, we'll podcast the building and working of the lifestyle development plan, and all of these things will come into play. So in the meantime, if you want to, go to the lifestyle planning newsletter on the website and the website itself for further guidance in these areas. And good luck to you on that. Now's the time in our program when we entertain perspectives of point solution experts and other people leading self-directed lives. Emad Aldajani joins us today. He's an entrepreneur and personal development coach, currently headquartered in New Zealand, and he's both of these. He's dedicated to fueling the quest for clarity, direction, and predictability in an unpredictable world, which I need to understand how to do that. Welcome to Vision in Action Live, Mr. Aldajani.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be in your podcast.
Well, great. That's great. We've got an exciting opportunity to talk here with our audience. So why don't you flesh out your introduction for anything you feel is important that I might have missed?
So it's just my approach is a holistic approach for people. So yes, I am a coach, but when I address a problem, I address it holistically from as much angle as possible.
I see. And then do you practice everywhere virtually, or do you have a geographic preference for your practice?
I practice virtually. Almost everything is virtual.
It's almost all virtual. Well, that's very modern of you.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us about this creating your own destiny and crafting a predictable future? How about give us the overhead on that, and then we can dig into some details.
Yeah, sure. So when I started my journey, it was the pain of feeling pointlessness and there is no purpose, there is no point of what I was doing. So I was looking for answers. And down the lines, over years, what I found is I have to address myself holistically. And that's why now when I address a problem, I address it holistically for people. It's like I am the person whom I would like to have when I was teenager.
Hmm.
So I had to address my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs, as well as my lifestyles, my habits, also my relationships. How about money? I have to address everything holistically in order for me to kind of feel relief from that sense of pointlessness. And once I learned that to solve a problem, I have to address it holistically, the pain is gone. Now it's like the sense of fulfillment.
I see. So you feel like you've got some control over things, it sounds like, once you do that.
Yeah, the whole point is to feel the sense of fulfillment. Whether I have everything I want or not, that's not exactly what I was after, as much as the, the relief from feeling emptiness or feeling pointlessness.
I see. I see. Okay. And you mentioned the unpredictable world. It's good of you to focus us on the fact that, change is inevitable, things aren't always predictable, and resiliency requires some resources that everybody needs to get in touch with. So I think you have a really good point there. Maybe you could elaborate for us.
Yeah, definitely. So when if I'm talking about resilience, I would say it's the ability to bounce back. This is my definition of being resilient. And
Hmm.
if you cannot predict your future, which we cannot, we kind of to some point we can predict a few things in our future, but we cannot predict everything. And therefore, we need to learn bounce back. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that people afraid of the future or afraid from uncertainty. What they are afraid from is that they cannot bounce back once life throws things at them. And that's where resiliency comes into place. When life throws things at you, you must learn to bounce back. And that's way more important than success, way more important than anything else. Because once you have the confidence to bounce back, there is no fear anymore. Even if there is a fear, it will not freeze you. You'll be able to take actions because always your confidence of bouncing back will overcome almost any obstacle.
Hmm. Okay. So, in your work with people, one question comes to mind is who's a logical candidate for the coaching that you offer? What kind of person might that be, and so forth?
I'm targeting people who are transitioning from being employees to become an entrepreneurs. And let me tell you why I chose this specific niche of people. It's because I can address money from the beginning. Because as long as I'm concerned, my experience tells me one thing or one core issue I have to resolve, which is, as a matter of fact, two core issues. One is money, and the second is emotions. I have to address them from the beginning. And when
Hmm.
I look at different type of niches, what I found is when I'm targeting those people, I can talk about the money from the beginning, and that's why I chose this niche because money must be addressed from the beginning, then everything else.
Right. So you go after the constraint of money and then
Yes.
work from there. Yes. Okay. All right. With that, so how do you lay out this guide that takes us from our confusion to some kind of clarity? How does that process work in your practice?
Yeah, so it will start with definitely understanding what money is, how does it work, and let me make it clear here. It's not about teaching the person how to become rich as understanding how money works, because whether they want to be rich or not, it's their choice. All I care about, do you understand how money works? Because
Right.
at some point you must understand it. So once they understand how money works, then we will move into how to deal with your emotions, how to control your emotions. It's a must. There is no way around that. It's if you
Hmm.
cannot control your emotions, basically in my experience, you cannot control your decisions. You cannot, and if you cannot control your decisions, well, you will not control your behaviors, and you will not be able to control your life as well. So then from there, I'll take it to address the way they think, what's their mindset, and then at the end, they have to learn how to plan their future, how to see the future even before it happens. Although I'm talking about it logically, because just so I remember when I started coaching, which was more than 10 years ago, there were people talking about coaching. There were people talking about the future of coaching. There are some people who already know where are we heading. And that's the whole point, is you have to understand where are we going before we go there.
Right.
It's there is a logic behind it, so it's not random. Because if I trace it back, always it's almost always, and I have seen this in many fields, it's there are people who know where are we heading, although probably they didn't talk about it clearly, but they know where we're heading, and they may give us some hints of that direction.
Right. Are you able to help people with kind of brainstorming their futures? I mean, do you guide that process, or do you have tools that you offer, or is it the one-on-one talk like this that develops their idea about their future?
Yeah, it's so I have mainly two things. One, I will work with them to plan their future. This number, they have to plan it. And the second, yes, I have tools I provide people with where they can to some extent, let's say, prepare well for the future. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Um, so how do you help them with part of your program is discovering and honoring their own personal values, who they are at their core, and carrying that forward into their vision for the future. So, how do you get at your core essence, if you will, if you don't already really know, if you're in that state of confusion? How do you go about that?
Yeah. So I have one specific question, and if people can answer it honestly, it's likely that they will find their core value. So, which is this: if you feel empty within, when you sit alone and let's say you sit alone and you just focus on your breath, and then you just let go of everything, suddenly you will start to feel emptiness within. You have to, it's like you have that sense of, I have to do something is missing in my life. I don't know what is it, but something is missing. If you can go beyond that feeling, if you can just look underneath that feeling, you will find something that's really important to you. What is it? It's different from person to person, but underneath that feeling of emptiness, there is a motivation which drives the person behaviors. And that's my personal experience, where the drive of their behavior, that their vitality is beneath that feeling of emptiness. But something happened during their life where it kind of suppressed that motivation at some point. Although even after suppression of that motivation, they're still able to act, they're still able to live their life, but always they have that feeling of something is missing.
Right, right. Okay. So you get to something that they're not aware or, conscious about. You bring that to the fore, and then that can become a focal point.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's mainly and exactly it's that feeling where it's that feeling where something is missing in my life.
right,
Okay, the question is, if I solve this problem, if I feel that there is nothing missing in my life, what would I feel? What will motivate me? What will be my drive? That's the answer of what's your core value is.
right. Okay, okay. Well, that's a good thing. People that are leaving employment to do their own business, they've got to know what they want out of it, certainly. I did some small business coaching, and I know that that was one of the big issues is having a clear picture and knowing, a clear plan,
Yeah,
where they anticipate pitfalls and they anticipate, speed bumps along the way. So that's great that you're doing that. Um, how do you find people, or how do they find you so that you can work together?
So people can find me through my personal website, which is emadaldajani.com, emadaldajani.com. Or also they can find me through my personal number, which I prefer because I am very responsive when people reach me directly, which
Mhm.
is plus 6422 562 5790.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So, what do you see as the biggest problem that your clients face? Is it this lack of understanding about what they want, or is it the process of taking it from what I want to here's my plan? Do you distinguish any of that as being the most difficult?
The most difficult thing I have seen coming to me again and again, it's lack of direction. It's almost always regard. So I worked in different niches over the years, but
Yes, sir.
always comes down to the same problem, which is where to go from here, where they lack direction.
Right. Okay. Um, Well, you and I probably don't. So I find that hard to understand, but then again, I do understand. So you help them pick up and generate a direction. Is there a way you do that?
Yes. So uh, when I saw this, and that's as a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons why I address things holistically, because I cannot teach someone how to deal with money, because then the question is, okay, I dealt with money, how to deal with my relationships. So and then we'll move to relationships, then what will I do with my thought and emotions? So once I address everything, once I address the person holistically, now
Yes.
they calm down, now they have that sense of certainty, that sense of peace. And once they reach that point, they can see clearly, they will be able to see clearly. And that's the whole point. Once they see, once they become, once they have that sense of peace after understanding themselves and their life holistically,
Right.
direction will show up in its own.
Yeah. Uh, when we do lifelong fulfillment, we tend to do a lot of what you're talking about, the framework from an end-to-end standpoint, and help them through the process of setting goals and stuff. But when it comes to a particular problem, we refer them out to an authoritative source that we trust. In other words, somebody that we have already said, we trust this person or this organization, they're fact-based, they're dependable, so that, our clients can go to the source as opposed to try and get it from us. Because to do everything even for ourselves or yourself, seems pretty difficult.
Yeah. It,
Sounds like you're doing it similarly.
Mhm. There are some problems, and it didn't I didn't come across a lot of those people, but there are certain problems that are not my area. I have to redirect and
Yes.
provide them with different source of, let's say, information.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, good. Any other points of distinction that you want to share with the audience before we begin to wrap up here?
Actually, it's one thing. So overall in life, it's I would suggest learn to sell as soon as possible. It's almost always everywhere I go, I tell people learn to sell as soon as possible, because that will solve a lot of your problems. It's not really about money per se as much. It will solve also your relationship to yourself, your relationship to other people, your interactions, your even your communication skills. It will be developed. So that's my last word.
Right. So learning to sell, is that the same as kind of learning to promote yourself? Is that what,
It
am I
it's
understanding that?
it's different.
Yep.
Learning to sell is to care for someone. Means I care for you, so I have a product or service or anything that can help you. So I'll sell it to you because you need it or you want it. In return, you have something for me I want. So I care. Well, I'll sell you. That's why.
Okay. All right. Got it. All right. So we've established where you are. You've given them phone number and contacts and stuff like that. So thank you, Mr. Aldajani, for joining us this morning. It's been a very enlightening conversation.
Thank
And we
you.
wish you well in your practice helping folks. That's a great thing to be doing.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.